Back to the 3-minute Devar. This week's portion is Parashat Shemini. Shemini is the third portion in the book of Leviticus, the third book of the 5 books of Moses. And Shemini, amongst other things, talks about the various kosher and non-kosher animals, various non-kosher and kosher birds, and also fish. When it comes to animals, the identifiers of the kosher animals are very straightforward. If it has split hooves and it chews the cud, it's kosher. If it doesn't have either of these two things, the animal's not kosher. When it comes to fish, also pretty straightforward and very similar. Two identifying signs: if the fish has fins and scales, then it's a kosher fish. And if it doesn't have fins or doesn't have scales, then it's not kosher. When it comes to birds, however, it's very different. The Torah lists 20 non-kosher birds. The Torah lists 20 birds in this week's portion, and says that any other bird is kosher. So there are no signs of a kosher or non-kosher bird. The Torah just tells us which ones aren't kosher, and we know that if a bird doesn't fall into any of these 20, then it's a kosher bird. Unfortunately, throughout our exile, we've sort of lost the translation of these birds, so we're not entirely sure what these birds are, and therefore, unless we have a clear tradition about a bird being kosher, we assume the bird isn't kosher. What are these rules of kosher all about, and why does the Torah make such a big deal about those things which we put in our mouth? Simply put, we are what we eat, not just in a physical sense, but in the spiritual sense. Every single animal, every single bird, and every single fish has within it qualities, has within it a spiritual makeup, and when we put that in our bodies, we to a certain extent take on the characteristics, we take on that which that animal represents in the spiritual realm. And therefore the Torah tries to steer us away from having this negativity enter into us. That is exactly what kosher and non-kosher is about. Interestingly, one of the birds which is listed over here as a non-kosher bird is called a chasida. Now a chasida in Hebrew, the root of the word chasida comes from the word in Hebrew chesed, which means kindness. Now one wonders if you are what you eat, and that's the reason why we don't eat non-kosher food. If the Torah tells us not to eat non-kosher food, then why would a bird whose name is kindness be one of the birds that isn't kosher? Surely that doesn't make any sense. One of the answers given to this is that although this bird is called a kind bird, if we take a closer look at how this kindness is manifest in this bird, we see that this particular chasida bird is very kind, but it's kind to a select group. It's kind to its friends, it's kind to its own family, but it doesn't look beyond its own circle, it doesn't look beyond those who are near and dear. Now, although that may be kindness, that is not true kindness. True kindness means taking responsibility and taking care and concern, not just for our family and friends, but for the world around us. And therefore, this bird is not a kosher bird. Because although it's kind, and although it has kind characteristics, if we look deeper at this bird, that is not true kindness. A message, a subtle message, but a deep message about what kindness really is, and also a larger message about what kosher is all about. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom, and as always, look forward to seeing you back in shul as soon as you're ready to come.